Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Alan Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 118 at Oakton College in our weekly Zoom classroom meetings.
Hey, Joe, can you talk about the student assistant program we have going?
You bet. As we work on these courses online, we realize that some students may need some additional assistance. And so, if the students are interested in coming into campus and getting in person assistance, we're available on Wednesdays at the Skokie campus from 9 a.m. to 12:30. Thursdays 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Skokie campus, P131 and 130. Fridays we're available online. And so if you need a Zoom meeting, just send us an email and we'll put together some online assistance for you. And then Sundays we're also at the Skokie campus in person from 8:30 to 1 p.m. and students are able to come in and get assistance like how to install their software or questions about some of the assignments.
Great, thank you.
No problem. And thank you, Al. I think these are good supportive mechanisms. We're finding that we are getting students that do like to come in. It's a great way to get out of the house and to get yourself engaged in these school activities. And there's plenty of things that we can do if you need some additional assistance.
Hey, Joe, also, can they make a project, a 3D project on the 3D builders?
Yeah, it just depends on if they have any experience with it. We just can't go in there and just use the printers like they're regular paper printers. There's a certain amount of training that's involved with it, but if you have decent CAD skills and you know how to model the parts and you'd like to print them, we can certainly accommodate students for that.
Okay, thank you very much for clearing it.
You bet. And that's sort of the direction that we're moving towards. I feel that as the courses continue to develop after the pandemic, we are finding students are choosing the online courses and they do like to work remotely, but we're also finding that students do want some in-person support. And so being able to come down to campus and use some of the equipment and things like that is kind of where we're moving towards.
Okay, great, thanks.
As we look at the advanced AutoCAD, things are moving along. We've got Module 2, which is due tomorrow. And if we look at Module 2 is located in the content section here. Creating solids, and we're going off of the textbook applications where solid modeling is a little bit different within AutoCAD. It's not like a parametric modeling software where you have a history tree that you go through. They do more what they call solid editing and sub-object editing, and then working with three-dimensional commands like 3D primitives and basic solid modeling Boolean functions. And so these are the assignments for Module 2 that are due tomorrow. There are these practice exercises where we build this flag, and then some other applications where we'll work on sub-object editing, working with different 3D move commands, being able to modify existing solids. And then we have a metric drawing of this bearing.
Okay, also a question for you. Do they have to use this AutoCAD or can they use any other software if they like?
This is an AutoCAD course, and so we're pretty much on AutoCAD. If we were looking into something like Introduction to 3D printing, we cover other softwares or allow other softwares. Same with the other industrial design courses. But as this is advanced AutoCAD, we're using AutoCAD.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
And then here's the video tutorials for each one of those exercises. And it's a different way of modeling. As you start to get into these different textbook applications and we start to look at these different things, the modeling is kind of cool. It's different from what we get with SolidWorks or some of the other programs. And so Module 2 is due tomorrow. And then if we take a look at Module 3, Module 3 then I believe is due on the 10th. We can double check that. On the 9th. And so Module 3 will be due on March 9th. And that's the week before spring break. And so the following week There is no class in session on the 16th, and that is spring break. And so the campus will be open, but we will not hold classes that week. And then the following week, on the 23rd, we have Module 4 due. And so let's take a look at those. If we look at the content section, most of the students are up to Module 3 at this point, where they'll create these different objects in these different shapes. Here's the PDF document. And this is some three-dimensional modeling information from a textbook. It just has some really good content as we start to go through and work with how you learn to create three-dimensional objects. Things like the right-hand rule, which basically talks about the direction of the X and Y axis and the rotation angle of the Z axis, are modeling tricks of the trade that we work with when we start to work with 3D. We'll also work with these different workspaces, the ribbon panel, and then displaying the different three-dimensional views, whether we're working with an isometric view or we're working with a visual style or the view cube. There's a lot of different ways to view your models and to render them and to look at them. And so we thought this was a great way to introduce that area as we look at the drawing assignments for Module 3. We're going to draw this table, and we're going to draw this mechanical project, and then everything else or anything else would be bonus, and this one doesn't have a bonus assignment. We do have a teacher video, and so here's a teacher video on how to model the table. And so we'll go through two-dimensionally, use commands like press, pull, and extrude, 3D move, regular move commands, and then using primitives like cylinders and rectangles or solid boxes, and then actually being able to orientate those different parts in 3D space. So we'll do a lot of the modeling basically on the floor, and then move them up to different elevations using object snaps. And so those are the techniques that we'll be using in Module 2. Back to the main. Excuse me, that was Module 3. And then we also have a video for the project in Module 3. And so as we walk ourselves through it, this would be created with the metric title block. There are a couple of questionable dimensions that the author put in, and I addressed those in the video. One of the questionable things would be that this would be 15/16 instead of a radius of a half. And 15/16 is just 1/16 short of an inch diameter. And so this is a 1 inch diameter, and it just doesn't look right. And so I modeled this with 1 inch because it just didn't look like that was the correct way to do it. And so with that, it's not unusual to find some glitches within the textbooks as we create the models. And so this is Module 3. We go through the different modeling instructions for that. And then if we come back to our main splash page, we've released Module 4. And Module 4 is really kind of interesting, in my opinion, where it goes through some of the mesh modeling applications. And so mesh modeling is where we'll take these mesh primitives and then we can actually alter and move the different 3D faces for them. And so the textbook does a decent job. It's really surface modeling, and this was really what was done before we did solids. And so things like ruled surfaces and revolved surfaces and things like that come back to mind as I create these different models. And so we'll use the B-size title block for these. You'll download the practice exercise, and then here we have the teacher videos on how to create these different mesh models like this organic shaped chair. And it's really pretty cool. You can 3D print these as well. And so as we look at some of these different mesh models and the mesh shapes, I decided let's take a look at it and see if we can actually prototype them. And we can bring them into our slicing software and we can prepare those. And then we can go through and take a look at the layers for that and how we would be able to prototype something like this. And this is a different type of modeling than we have in the parametric modeling software like SolidWorks. Alrighty, so with that, I'm going to go back to the main splash page. Remember, if you need any student assistance, we're available. It's best if you email us, let us know you're coming so that we can get things prepared for you. And with that, I'm going to stop the recording and open things up for questions. Al, is there anything else we want to talk about before I end the meeting?
No, I think we did a great job. You did a fantastic job on the videos, Joe.
Yeah, thanks. I enjoy making them. So, just following through the textbook and then adding, some additional content for basic modeling. Alrighty then, I will stop the recording and we'll open things up for questions.